Hello, I'm Dr. Brian Fraser, and in this video I'll be showing how to install Debian, the operating system, the Linux operating system, into a virtual machine. Specifically, I'm going to use VMware. The first thing we need to do is we need to download VMware Player. So if you search for VMware Player in Google, I'll take the link here for download. There are paid versions of this, but there's a free version that works perfectly well for pretty much anything you want to do. So go ahead and get the free one called VMware Player. So current version is 16. For Windows, I'd download that. I've already got it installed, so I don't need to do that here. And then the next thing you need is you need to actually start the download of the Debian install image called an ISO. So if you search for Debian in Google and then go down to downloads, and then you want this link right up here at the top. It's not quite as clear as I would have liked, but we'll download this. This is going to be Debian 11.5 is the current version for me. This is codenamed Bullseye, which is often how people refer to it. It's actually easier also to search for Bullseye if you're doing a net search. And this is going to be the ISO image, which will sometimes be burned to a CD, for example, or it just packages everything neatly, and we can install from that. So I've gone and downloaded both of those, and that's all set up. So let me show you here. I now have my VMware Player running, and I'm going to create a new virtual machine. So I'm going to go to File, and then New Virtual Machine. And I'm going to give it a name here. So where do I want to put it? I'm going to put, I got to pick the installer. So my installer, I think it's under my downloads. No, I put it under, downloads. Inside of downloads, so let's go and select the install image. So I'm going to browse, browse to it, and this is under downloads. And there we have. Now I've got the image that I'm going to install. I'm going to say continue. Next. I'm going to give it a name. So it's detected that it's a Debian 11.x, and it's going to install it somewhere. I'm going to put mine on a different drive. I don't want my C drive being full. Actually, no, I'm going to put it with S. Yeah, that way it runs fast. It's on my SSD. If you've got a choice between installing this on your SSD or on a hard drive, the SSD will make this run quite a bit faster. So that's a good choice. Give it a maximum size you can pick. 20 gigs is maybe a little bit light for some of the things we're doing. I'm doing cross-compiling with this and development work, so I'm going to go to 40 gigs. In fact, I'm going to go to 60 because I want this to be long-lived, but 40 is probably a good choice. And then next I can customize the hardware. I'd recommend doing this and bumping a few things up. I'm going to bump up my memory up to 4 gigs. I don't want to go too high because it takes the memory from the rest of my system, plus it will take a bit longer to suspend and resume. Processors, I'm going to bump that up to, I'll give it access to 6 virtual processors, and I think the rest of the settings are okay. I'm going to leave the virtualization engine by default as what it was. Networking and all that's fine. So click Finish, and it's now going to turn on the virtual machine. And so it's currently powering up the virtual machine. We can see here it going through the virtual BIOS, and now it starts to run. I get to pick how I want to install, and I'm going to say I want to go with a graphical install. So I've got keyboard only here, so I'm going to go with graphical install, hit enter. We can see Linux booting, and pick my language. I'll go with English. Sure, US is fine. Configure a keyboard. Now, it turns out, that'll be fine. It starts to detect my hardware, and it's going to go through the process. Now, there's quite a few options when you're installing Debian 11 about how you want to do things. It gives you really detailed controls. So I'll walk you through some of those here rather than just skipping over all of them. Host name for this machine, so I'm going to call this one, as for a course, it's going to be 351 Debian. Maybe what I want to call it. Name it anything you like. Debian's okay by default. Domain, I'm not putting this on a particular domain or anything like that, so I'm going to just continue and skip that. A root password. You want to pick a root password that you can use whenever you need to, if you needed to log in and sort of adjust a setting or something like that. It should be something you can remember. I'd say write it down. And I'll just put mine in here. Oops, gotta type this. Keyboard's weird. There you go. Pick a full name for you. So I'm gonna put in. I'm just gonna put full name, right? Sure. Brian Fraser. Brian, it's gone with his username, and then a password. Oops, and I didn't have it where I didn't type it in correctly. So that's good, it caught that. Configure my clock, I'm in Pacific time zone. Partition guard, I want to use the entire disk. I don't need to set up the LVM, which is the Linux virtual machine. So I'm just going to go with use the entire disk. Sure, that's what is. This is what the operating system thinks is being provided to it by the virtual machine. All files. So what do I want to do here? I want to have them all in one partition is a simple way to go. So I'm going to stick with that. If you wanted to manage it, you can separate different partitions. I'm just going to go with one for ease of maintenance. And then say finish and write the changes. Do you want to continue with this? Yes, I do. Continue. And then it'll go through and start installing. So I'll pause the video here while it continues on a lot of this install. At points during this install, it might seem to freeze as it does some configurations or installing a particularly large package. So don't worry if it seems to freeze for a minute. This whole thing maybe took 3-4 minutes for me to get through. Now it's going to ask, does it want to scan the install media labels? You can scan more. Do you want to insert another one? No, we just want to stick with the one. It's possible that you can get Debian across multiple disks. In this case, we have only one ISO. It will get anything it needs from the web, so that's fine. So we'll say, no, I don't need to scan more disks. Configure the package manager. We'll say that's United States is fine. We'll let it go with whatever it wants. I don't have any proxy settings, HTTP proxy, so I'll just continue through that. The package manager is really great because it'll allow you to easily install new pieces of software or update existingly installed software very easily. It's the kind of the canonical way to get new software installed under Linux. Configure popularity contest. System layer. If you choose to participate, the system may anonymously supply distribution to the developer. So you can choose to send information back. I will say no, not going to be involved in that. You can pick your windowed environment. There's a lot of different ways that you can see what's going on. We'll just stick with what's defaulted here. Going with GNOME is a good choice. I don't need a web server. I don't need an SSH server. I will have an SSH client, which is important for me, but I don't need people to be able to SSH into this, so I don't need the SSH server. The other ones would be more important if you're running a server. All right, and now I'm going to pause again as it gets through all of these files, retrieving them, downloading them, I think, from the web, and so forth. After it's gone and downloaded them, so now it's halfway through the process almost, and it's downloaded, now it's going to start to install them. So it unpacks all the things it's downloaded and starts installing them. So we can see now that I've finished installing that, it's going to install a few other things. The Grub Bootloader, this is what runs and allows it to kind of start up the operating system. So it seems that there's a new installation. This is a new installation. Is the only operating system on the computer? Yes, because it's in a virtual machine, so it's isolated from all other operating systems. If so, it should be safe to install the Grub Bootloader in your primary drive. Yes, I want to do this. If I was installing this on a full computer, not inside of a virtual machine, then I'd be worried about, is this going to need to work well with Linux and other Windows or machines or something like, or pardon me, with other operating system installs, such as Windows. But I will say, yes, I will install it as suggested. And I can enter the drive manually. I don't want to do that. I want to select the one here. I don't know why it doesn't default to that, but it should. And now it's finishing some more installation here. It's putting in the open VM tools. So in order for the operating system inside of the virtual machine to kind of work well with the virtual machine software, we need some tools to do that. And we can see down here that it's offering to install some tools for us, but the ones that just got installed might do it for us. So anyway, now we say installation is complete. It's time to boot, and we'll see what happens. So it's now rebooting. We can see here it's doing the shutdown sequence, the boot up BIOS. Here's the Grub Bootloader that we said. It'll automatically time out in just a moment, or I could hit enter. And now it starts to boot Linux. Let's see the whole boot process. We're getting a few warnings here of things, I guess firmware drivers for my particular hardware. It's not happy in some ways, but we can probably ignore a lot of those. So here I am. I can now type in my password. Hopefully I get that right. And now I'm in. It kind of looks like nothing's going on here, but that's all you're going to see. If you then click on activities, you get the kind of the screen here. Type in, for example, the thing I'm going to love to type in the most is terminal. Start running my terminal and run away. Now the first thing I might want to do, and I suggest doing, is doing a sudo to run it as superuser. Superuser do apt minus apt-get. This is a tool that will install all of our tools for us. And I'm going to do an update. This basically says go out to the web and try and find if there's anything new. So I type in my password. I'm not a super user. Ah, right. Okay, we'll look at that in just a second. Let's do that right now. So I'm going to say here, add Linux. Let's do a screen so everyone can see it. So add Linux user to sudo. And it'll tell us the commands to do down here. User mod. Yeah. So in order to do this, I need to have root permissions. So I'm going to do su as superuser. I'm in. And then now I'm able to do things as root. So user mod minus a g and then sudo and then my name. My username was Brian. Oh, let me find the command I need. Okay, I've discovered what the problem is. So I've got my terminal up here. I'm going to get into superuser so that I can do the commands as the root access. I was trying to run the command usermod, but it says it can't find that command. There's a cool command called where is, and then you can type in whatever command you want, usermod, and it will tell you where in the file system it will find those. So at the moment, the usermod program is located in user/sbin, but that's not in the path. So rather than messing with the path, I'm just going to put in the whole path name here. And then I type in the rest of that. So the command I wanted was lowercase a, capital G, sudo, and then my name, Brian, my username. And now I'm in the sudo file. So let me close this. Oops. And we'll come back in with terminal again. Now I can do sudo, which is the most common way we'll do a command like this. And I can say apt-get, update. Nope, I'm not in that. I will try that again. So the error I'm getting here is that I am not in the sudoer file. So I got to change that up even though I've got the right permissions now. So I'm going to go back into superuser. So I've got the ability to write to files and do things as the root. And I'm going to start to configure this. So if I go into so change directory back into the etc slash, and then there's a sudoers, superuser do, there we go, doers.d for the folder. And look at the files there. There's a README that'll tell me how I can do things. So what I want to do is I want to create a file in here, and it could be something in here. I'm actually going to put it in one. Looking up a level, there is a file ls sudo. Oops, let me get that right. Sudoers. There's the file. So I'm going to edit that using nano. Sudoers. And I'll show us all the different users that have access here. And what I can do is I can add at the very bottom, look at my helpful doc here, I can put in my username, so Brian, and then all equals, I'm looking at this sort of guide below, all, no pass, password, and then colon, all. And that will give me the permissions. Now to close this, I need to hit Control X. Oops, Control X to save. Save the modified file, yes. And Y, same name as before. And then I think I might have to log out as well. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, let's try it. Sudo ls. Yes, there we go. Okay, so now sudo's up. So sudo, and I can do apt get update. And it now went out, check the web, try to get new versions, and I can do, after I've updated, I can do an upgrade. This is a good thing to do over time to get all the new stuff. But I got the latest and greatest, so it's all set. If I ran this in a week, it would probably come back and say there's something to update. So if you wanted to install other tools, now you can do it here from like sudo apt get install, and I'll try and get a git, for example, is a great thing to start. I'll say yes, take up the space it needs. Go from here. Now, one thing you're going to want to be able to do is manage a lot of your virtual machine stuff. So I want to be able to resize this, and we can see that it actually stretches nicely. If it gets it where it doesn't resize nicely, you might have to do some more work with the virtual machine integration. So down here at the bottom, it's offering, you can install, when you're done the operating system install, click I finished. There we go, I finished. And now it should be all happy. All right, well, good luck installing, and thank you for watching.